Now, Mike Bloomberg's given an emotional speech after stepping out of the presidential race. The former New York mayor withdrew his bid after falling well short of Democratic frontrunners Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders on Super Tuesday. He instead threw his support behind Mr. Biden to become the party's nominee, but maintains he could have taken on President Trump.
And I have to say, there is no doubt in my mind we would have beaten Donald Trump in November. And you know who else knows that? Donald Trump. He's been scared stiff of us, and for good reason, because every time he hit us, we hit back twice as hard. And unlike his jabs, our punches packed the truth.
Mr. Bloomberg also celebrated the reach of his campaign, which he launched in late November. He reportedly spent $500 million on his bid for the White House, but it didn't come to fruition after his one and only test of the electorate on Super Tuesday, which did produce an extraordinary result. It's been called the resurrection of Joe Biden. Who'd have thought after a very poor showing in Iowa, dragging in Nevada, he really counted on South Carolina as his resurrection, and it absolutely came to be. So we can see here he's back in business. He won 10 out of the 14 Super Tuesday wins. Alabama, Arkansas, really key to get those southern states where the Democrats need people to turn out. North Carolina and Virginia the same. An early result in Virginia, a very strong result, showed just how well he did. And so we did see that he did very well in all of those states that he needed to, even Minnesota, which was Amy Klobuchar's home state, and Massachusetts, which is extraordinary. That is Elizabeth Warren's home state. It was one she should have won, but she ended up coming in third after this man, Bernie Sanders. Oh, no, we're going to go to the Texas results. So we can see here Texas and California were the two biggest states in play yesterday. So we saw Joe Biden came in with a resounding 34.5%, Bernie Sanders with 30%. Here's the California votes now. We've got Bernie Sanders winning that one at 33.6%, Joe Biden 24.9%. Why these states were really important in particular was because it was a real test of the Latino vote support. And that's key because they do traditionally have lower voter turnout. The Democrats need higher turnout to be able to win. And so when they can get marginalised communities like the Latinos, like African Americans out and excited to vote, that is what's key. Bloomberg couldn't do it, but really notable that he did come in ahead of Elizabeth Warren. So when we see Sanders, he's been the front runner this whole time, bar that moment in Iowa, and now he's only won 4 of these states. Now, Vermont is his home state, so that was quite likely. Utah is one of the safest Republican states in the country, and so that's not going to do him much good at the election. Colorado, very progressive. We know they were one of the first states to legalise marijuana in the United States, so they were more likely to support a very left-leaning agenda, and of course California. But you can't underestimate the influence of California just for the sheer number of delegates that will represent them at the convention. So that is absolutely key. Now, if we check in here on the delegate count, we can see Joe Biden pulled ahead after being absolutely in the dark for so long. Bernie Sanders now on 501, Elizabeth Warren on 61. And so the question now is, what will Elizabeth Warren do? The question is, will her supporters naturally support Bernie Sanders? Because it's not a given, even though that they are the two more progressive candidates with the more socialist agendas. There is a chance that Elizabeth Warren's supporter might want a more moderate candidate that's more likely to get those voters out on election day and beat Donald Trump. So this is the key. It's all down to what happens at that convention later this year, and that's in Milwaukee. That's absolutely key because that's really one of the states where Donald Trump won the election. So that is the state of play after Super Tuesday. We're joined live now from Washington, D.C. by CNN reporter Nadia Romero. Nadia, thank you for your time. What is the situation now with Elizabeth Warren? Do we see her sticking in the race much longer?
Annalise, we heard from her campaign last night saying that she had a very disappointing showing in Super Tuesday. As you mentioned, not even winning her home state of Massachusetts. So now the campaign says it's really up to Elizabeth Warren, and she is back in Massachusetts trying to decide what's next for her. Her supporters have been vocal on social media. There have been different hashtags trending, including hashtag Warren Democrat. People who say that she is still their candidate and they plan to vote for her in their upcoming primaries in their states if she stays in the election. So right now, it really depends on Elizabeth Warren. She is a fighter, and she's known for having that feisty spirit, and you can see it on the debate stage. She is a fierce debater, and she's also a role model. She is the last woman standing right now. I mean, you still have Tulsi Gabbard, but as far as the top contenders, Elizabeth Warren really is the last woman standing, and she doesn't want to let people down, and she wants people to know that a woman can be president of the United States. And you think of all of these other developed countries that have prime ministers and presidents who have been women, but not here in the U.S. So there's a lot weighing on Elizabeth Warren's shoulders right now on which way to go with her decision. Annalise?
And I did see Washington Post referring to her performance in the debates with Michael Bloomberg as a murder-suicide, because managed to take both of them out. But where does this leave us with the race? Is Joe Biden now the presumptive nominee?
Yeah, it's too early to say that. I mean, Joe Biden definitely has the momentum. His campaign has coined it as Joe-mentum right now, sweeping those southern states and surprises in states like Minnesota and Maine, and really doing well in Texas, where we thought Bernie Sanders would have a stronghold on the young Latino voters there. But Biden was able to take Texas as well. He swept more states than Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders played the numbers game, and California had the most delegates, and that's where he focused a lot of his attention. So now we're heading into battleground states. Next Tuesday on March 10th is when you will see Michigan and 6 other states that will have their primaries. After that, a week later on the 17th is when Florida will have their primary, and those are states that really matter. And you'll always hear people say that there is no path to the White House without capturing Florida. And so those are some of the contests that are upcoming that will really tell us which of the candidates, and it's a two-man race right now between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, is more likely to be that presumptive front runner. And we may not have a presumptive front runner until we get to the convention. This could be one of those years where we see a broker convention or a contested results on the delegate count. So Joe Biden has the momentum right now, but Bernie Sanders is not down and out.
Which would be fantastic. I think just political watchers are all hoping for a brokered convention, but I'm sure America wants a clear front runner. Nadia Romero, thank you so much for your time. Now, in the US, Tennessee is under a state of emergency after the deadliest tornado in a very long time.